I hope you all are going to enjoy some of the time here at All for Success. Currently, I'm struggling with trying to get the sound to work. I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone, but I want to say again, if anyone didn't hear my earlier opening, I'm going to say good morning, good morning, good morning. And it is a beautiful sunny day here on the 18th of December. Now, I might have to start all this all over. So if any of you are online, please stand by and try to log in to the space that we're on right now. So we're going to give this another shot. I hope I didn't lose everybody, but sometimes we do. When you're dealing with different areas of technology, there's no telling what's going on as you try to open up these wonderful chats. But if any of you can just reset and maybe try to sign in again, I'm hoping that you can hear me better this time. So good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to All for Success. So I'm going to resend if anyone was signed in. And get ready. One more time, we're going to try to do this again. And just so you know, technology is sometimes not your friend. So I'm going to have to figure out what's giving us a little bit of trouble to get everything together. So while we wait as other people try to get back into the sound side of this, what I wanted to get into today is just the basic 1, 2, 3 of looking at your children as they try to climb aboard and move forward in life. And what I'm going to do on this channel is compare what's happening in the world around us, which is like basic current events, but along with how things might be shaping out for just each and every one of us. And so in doing that, I wanted to point out that often we will find ourselves at odds with just the world in general. But it actually is harmless harmless in the way that we interpret it for ourselves. And then other times it can be harmful because if you internalize everything that you feel, you'll begin to feel even more in a struggle. And so one of the current and one of these most hot topics right now in our current events are the type of things that are going on with the royal family and its impact on the rest of the world. So stand by just a few minutes. So if you can see my comments section, you may have to refresh and log back in. All right. All right. So again, I'm going to say good morning. And I know we're struggling here trying to get the stream up and going. And folks are going to have to maybe log out a little bit and log back in. But eventually we're going to get people in here who have an opportunity to join in on the chat. So they'll just kind of catch up as my chat starts to catch up as it refreshes from place to place. So what I wanted to go over, and this is really short, especially since we're experiencing all kinds of technical challenges. I just wanted to let people know that what I'm looking at sometimes in the current day news, we're watching the struggle of Meghan and Harry, which for those of you who have actually seen the documentary or docuseries that they had, we all had a lot of fun listening to some of the things they went through and finding out that maybe, especially if you are on the side, and I hate to say on this side or that side, but what they have done is created an environment where you're either looking at yourself as a person on the team of Meghan and Harry, or Harry and Meghan, or you're looking at yourself as a person on the team of the royal family that's still residing in the UK. And the problem with that is this: they are one family. So it's like trying to pick a side in a family when the argument is between the people in the family. And that's a very difficult and a very dangerous place to be. It's one of those things that, people want to try to see both sides of their conversation. The difference in this particular case is this family is one that almost everything they do in life is seen by the public 100% of the time. So you're watching information about the family as it is placed in the news, and then you have to make your judgment about what you think about it, right? And so that's what makes this entertaining on one hand, but also damaging on the other, right? So let's take a look at that. Let's kind of unpack that whole thing. So Harry and Meghan, as they've chosen to move away from their duties in the royal family, they have also put themselves in a situation where they are outside of the walls or the structure and support of that family. So that could be a good thing, or it may be a bad thing, depending on what they needed. as they're trying to explain to the rest of the world the opportunities that they have to be in support of the family's business structure is maybe sometimes at odds with how they would operate as individuals. And of course, that's difficult in any business or even a family unit. So we're watching this live 100% of the time, all of their grievances being aired in public. And so what I find that I look at and what I feel is that I'm seeing a lot of this as if I were in Doria's, Miss Ragland. Doria Ragland is the mother of Miss Megan. And I kind of have this perspective from her point of view, because when you're a parent, you're looking at it from the point of view of how would you like to see your children endure this type of challenge? And each one of us would be different. One of the things I thought about as they were all being interviewed is, as a parent, your initial response is always that you want to see young people do well. Everyone wants to see young people succeed. The only thing that creates hesitancy among parents is that we also know how difficult, we are aware of the challenges, we are aware of whether or not things might turn out well, or if they in fact may turn out poorly. So we sit sometimes in the background, and our viewpoint as children try to move forward and do some extraordinary things. We're clenching our fist, holding our breath, and scared to death. It's like watching your children dive off of a diving board at a swimming pool. It's frightening, absolutely frightening. But when you're watching your kids and you're aware, okay, they can swim, you know they can dive, you know they can do these things, but from a parent's point of view, nonetheless, the terror is still there. And so I'm looking at that wonderful lady, Doria, who knows what her lifestyle has been in her past, who has any real idea of what types of things she struggled with or had to overcome. And when I think of her choice of partner, I am mystified. But, it's not like women can be in a relationship that will not be one that's going to be long lasting. So sometimes you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I can't imagine, given her background, you wake up one day and people are hailing your child because of the wonderful things they're doing. And just like a light switch, all of a sudden, it would appear that the whole world has turned on you and your children. They hate you. These people are walking around and afraid that out of any corner, someone's going to come out and do something to them. So, if you all kind of understand what I mean by this, again, just throw a thumbs up or click the number 1 so that I kind of know where your thoughts are in this. Or if you have any comment, feel free to type it in the chat or any questions. So that's how I am looking at what they are going through. And so I'm going to pause here for just a second and see if we have any responses in the chat that I ought to take a look at. All right. So Miss Ragland, it would appear that she lived and worked in and around California most of her time. And the other thing we have to think about is that, California is a little bit of a different type of lifestyle. It's not bad, it's just different from some of the things that many of us may experience. You know, we may not be working in and around the polished people who work in the Hollywood machine. And that can be a bit different. You know, they have a different way of looking at things, and they have a very different way of actually existing in the world because they spend so much time working on their products and their art forms. So they're often in a somewhat, uh, I would say, somewhat detached um, mentality from us in the day to day. But what I would like to point out though is that often these folks still get out and about and wish to participate with us as we try to live our lives. Sometimes they look at, you know, how we get along in our days and they feel like, oh, that would be a wonderful way to live by simply, you know, going to the park or um, camping out and enjoying time with friends and family. So, in that way, on the Hollywood side, people often have either lived very simple lives or they know people who still are. But when you look at the way the royal family may live, that could be considerably different. In the case of the royal family, they in fact may never have any connection, so to speak, with the day to day. Their existence is kind of handled by other people. And so that's another factor that would challenge um, young people who would be new to that lifestyle. All of a sudden, your ability to make a decision to go participate in an activity or not participate in an activity would be limited by the fact that someone else is managing your schedule. So I really do want to point out that from a mother's point of view, you would be looking at a family that's beginning to embark on their own lives. They are beginning to have their own children, and yet, as a mom, a parent of the adult children, you're going to be constantly worried. You're going to be wary about who they're meeting and what they're doing, where they're spending their time, and can they trust the people that they are in and around. And it's definitely um, a moment of fear that's experienced in all of that. And I think Doria, having been on this journey with them, is going to be terrified throughout. And so it starts a method of questions from her as well. Did you prepare your children for many of the obstacles and challenges in life that they are going to experience? Now, that's another thing. So, if you all are out there listening and you think your parents, do you believe that your parents adequately prepared you for adulthood? If you're older, it's harder to remember back to that time. But if you're younger, then you have to have a thought or a thought in that process. And feel free, again, comment in the chat or type it in the chat if you feel that you were prepared for adulthood, or do you feel that what you're experiencing now as an adult that your parent didn't prepare you for? Like, did they miss explaining something to you that would have helped you be ready for life as you see it? So come on, throw some comments in the chat there and I'll respond to those when I see them. Okay, so I'm going to just hold off. There's a picture that I'm looking for while I'm waiting to see if you all have any comments in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to try to put up a all right. So did any of you think of an answer for that question, whether or not you felt fully prepared as an adult? Do you feel that your parents gave you enough information to be ready for your adulthood? Or do you think that you needed more information as you became an adult? I would just like to say that when I was probably a preteen, for such a short period of time, I thought that I knew everything I needed to know to be getting ready for, life as it was about to come. I had an idea um, that I was going to be able to navigate through the difficulties of life as it was going to be presented. I was thinking, oh, gee, I got this. I'm old enough, I'm learning enough, and that I have had this figured out. But I began to realize as time went on that I, in fact, was missing quite a bit of information. And as time went on, I began to realize that the information I thought I could apply to being an adult was not quite what I needed. It was missing pieces. Now, the weird thing is, I can remember specific conversations throughout my childhood where people basically dropped hints about the world that we were going to be involved in. For example, in Megan's case, people have been back and forth in a conversation of, did she see herself as a woman in America that was black and ready for the challenges that are specific to black women in the United States? There's a discussion going on now that perhaps she didn't see herself that way, and perhaps no one else saw her that way. Thus, um, from a community perspective, if there were a group of black women, from their perspective, then perhaps she didn't see herself that way. And maybe she didn't experience the things that are common to women in that situation, or black women rather. Now, type a 1 in the chat, of course, if you understand what I mean, or if you think she saw herself as a black woman, or if you think she saw herself as non-black. I would love to know your opinion in the chat. Feel free to type a comment and let us know what you think. Also, if you're looking at my channel, All for Success, feel free to hit the thumbs up button if you like what you're hearing and would like to talk more about it, and or make any type of comment in the chat that you feel would be appropriate. Let's try to keep it clean, okay? So for those of us who feel that she knew that she was a black woman, however, it was not presented to her as a situation to be concerned about. Most of us feel that that would dawn a very different perspective, and it might have been one that, from her mom's point of view, would have been a perspective of protection. In other words, her mom may have had that thought process because there would be no need to continuously give your children a reason to feel negatively about who they are and what they look like. And often that is a perspective of a parent. So we go back again to my thought process, which is how parents feel that they want to see their children succeed, and they don't want to fight against their children's success. So there is a great deal of people in the camp that she would be, of course, aware that her mom is a black woman. She would, of course, be aware of that. However, the way that she would process her behavior and her actions in that world that her mother is presenting her to is to be able to be perfect and be the best at whatever it is you do, which would not conflict with whether you are black, look black, don't look black. And that is a very, very modern mindset among black people. There are a great number of black people that will carry themselves in a way and comment on the fact that concerning themselves with their race and their color is the last thing that they do. So if you agree with that point of view, or if you think that point of view is wise, that puts you in one camp. But if you agree that that point of view is considered being disassociated, you see, then that puts you in another camp. And I would love to know what you all think about those type of contrasts. You can feel free to add anything in the chat if you'd like to have a comment about it. So that's also um, a deep conversation that goes on among people often, is very similar to someone saying, hey, well, I have um, an illness, or I have a disability, or, maybe I have any type of deficiency, but I'm simply going to ignore it and push myself to try and succeed in this space. And of course, that's also a possibility of their mindset. So anyway, that's most of the presentation that I had for today, and the discussion in and around um, what a mom's viewpoint might look like watching this situation. And I'm going to leave you all with some of the tidbits of information that are coming out of some of the Sussex squad. Um, there are a number of people who are watching. Some of the other press secretaries, the original press secretaries in the Royal House. One of the names was Jason. I don't know his last name, so you all might want to search for that as you're studying things that's going on with the family. Other people have been really admiring how Tyler Perry came into their lives and what an impact he is having. So please read about that. That's going to be fascinating. The last part would be some of the older men in the UK who are in the media space or on the television space. It is becoming very obvious that these people are harboring emotional responses that are very disturbing. And I hope that many of you get an opportunity to read about and learn about some of the things that these folks are putting out there. It is fascinating as well. And we would love if anyone has any information on what might be causing people to have these types of reactions. But they're talking about that media space. So please get it, if you get a chance, read a little bit about that. And then again, when I come back up next time, I'm still going to talk about how we as adult parents try to encourage our adult children to continue to pursue many of their outlets and to continue to pursue the things that they would like to in their own lives, as it applies to their own successes, their careers, and their wants and the things they want to do to help others. So those are the thoughts I'm going to leave you with. And I hope in the comments section, if you have any thoughts, questions, or ideas, place them in the comments, and I'm going to be so happy to read them and take your suggestions and continue to pursue this channel moving forward. So with that, everyone, if it's sunny where you are, get out in that sunshine, walk, ride a bike, do whatever you can, keep yourself moving. And if it's not so sunny where you are, then wrap up, put a hat on, and do it anyway. All right, so that's it for me here at All for Success with an X. All right, All for Success. And thank you all for coming.